Senator Colin Deacon, an independent senator with the Senate of Canada, is truly Canada's FinTech political advocate for a Fireside Keynote interview with Sue Britton, the CEO and founder of the Fintech Growth Syndicate, to kick things off today. Over to you, Sue.
Great, thank you so much, Craig, and just congratulations to you and Jennifer for putting on this event. It's quite an impressive lineup, and I'm really thrilled to be here to introduce the Honorable Senator Colin Deacon. Senator Deacon, before I let you say hello, I just want to give people a bit of background about who you are and what you've done for the country. You've been a representative of the Senate of Canada since June of 2018 as a representative of Nova Scotia. As part of the Senate, you've been a strong advocate for entrepreneurs, harnessing the digital economy, updating Canada's privacy legislation, ensuring global competitiveness of Canadian firms, and promoting Canadian leadership on issues relating to climate change. My words, I think, Senator, you've become synonymous with open banking. I think both of us are probably going to slip a little bit and refer to open banking, but as it's now been referred to as consumer-directed finance in Canada. And I wanted to just kick off with a little bit of the few things that you have been spearheading. And the first one being in June of 2019, you released a report with the Standing Senate Committee on Banking, Trade and Commerce called Open Banking, What It Means for You. And it was a very urgent call to action to the federal government to move forward on an open banking framework. And you had some very key recommendations in that report that were all very well received by the industry. And then in January of 2020, Minister Renault released the findings of their first phase of their review by the Advisory Committee on Open Banking, and announced that they'll be undertaking the second phase of their work this year. And then in April, we were notified that that would be delayed. I know there's some late breaking news that we both just learned about today, but welcome, Senator Deacon. And maybe you could start off by giving us your perspective on how are we doing right now with respect to moving this key topic forward.
Thanks, Sue, and it's really nice to be here with you because you're such a strong advocate and informed person on this topic. You're always trying to help people learn and see the opportunity. And I guess in response to your question, where are we at? We're at a place where we need to clearly convince our finance minister that this is a priority in terms of improving Canada's competitiveness and productivity growth, because that's not seen right now. It's very clear that's not understood. It's, when I look back to when we started our study on open banking, it emanated from a study we did on systemic risks in the financial system in Canada, 10 years after the financial crisis, what systemic risks are there. And I was very new to the Senate at that point, and a number of us were asking questions, I certainly was, about the risk that the huge amount of global investment in fintechs represented to our banking system. Because if their most profitable product lines are going to be eaten by digital competitors that can deliver more value at a fraction of the cost, we have to worry about that from a competitiveness standpoint, make sure that our tremendous banking brand, especially following the financial crisis, is used to the advantage of our whole economy going forward in the most effective and cost-efficient way. That's what drove us to the issue. I can assure you that reading the transcripts, you'll look back and you'll see that the committee was anything but supportive of the concept of open banking to begin with. But every single member was won over, and I was asked specifically to do all I could to get out and get attention around the report. It's become one of the most read recent reports that the Senate has ever produced in recent years. So I'm really proud of that because it speaks to the work we did. But when I'm out speaking about this issue, I'm speaking about it because my colleagues on the banking committee said, this is really important. We've got to do everything we can to support this issue. What's the progress in the last year? The name was changed.
Yeah, very important change. No, I realize that that you're essentially saying not enough progress has been made.
No, it's just such a great opportunity that we've got to somehow change our arguments to make sure that the Minister of Finance understands what this holds. I mean, there was an article in The Logic today that you were quoted in that I thought was quite interesting that said, the fintechs that lack the scale and the brand recognition to be the partner in solving the distribution needs that the federal government had around COVID response for small business. Yeah, to do the whole thing. That's not what was anybody, I don't think, was proposing. I think what was being proposed is, how do we make sure that the fintech lenders that small businesses have increasingly moved to, because they're more responsive and more capable of serving their needs, can actually still be served by their financial their lender of choice, their financial provider of choice, and unfortunately, we're in a situation where they can't even deal with those institutions can't even deal with their customers and serve their customers with COVID relief, but are doing so in the United States, delivering small business administration programming. So sorry, but that's we've got to do a better job of convincing the minister.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, some of the companies that you're mentioning are certainly not small companies, such as PayPal or Intuit or OnDeck, all of which operate in Canada and could have all been declined by the government to help reach small businesses with the appropriate funding, or even support, as many of them are doing in the US, the financial institutions in the various stages of the process. So really disappointing. And I just wanted to really quickly touch on the fiscal report. So this is a report that came out yesterday, and it does mention that there is some budget set aside for open banking starting this year and over the next 5 years. And that amount is just approximately $5 million that they've set aside. So interesting, we don't know much more about it, other than that it is money that is supposed to support the second phase of the government's review. What's your take on that, not knowing the details behind it?
Not knowing the details, I just put it in the context of previous actions. One, that the finance minister received the report he commissioned a year ago, received it on his desk in June 2019, and released it 7 months later on a Friday afternoon at the end of January. Then a few months later after that, punting the continuing discussions around fintech to the fall, because we can't have large public gatherings. We're proving right now that we can have very constructive conversations digitally. When you add $1 million a year over 5 years as a response to the tremendous productivity opportunities, I was discussing with Nick Ogden, who created ClearBank. I don't know if you know ClearBank in the UK, but first clearing bank that was regulated, that was approved and regulated in 250 years in the UK. He's got a tremendous track record in the field. They're in the process of creating a global clearing system. They'll have it up and running within 2 years, a little over 2 years of launching the company. The financial friction that they will be able to start to eliminate in terms of international money flows is 1.2 or 1.3 trillion a year estimated right now. That's a productivity gain in the world. To pay for all of our COVID debt, we are going to have to get every single productivity gain we can grab hold of and implement it in our country. In order to not have our taxes go through the roof, in order to have our businesses be the ones that succeed globally. So for me, I think the response is demonstrating that they're extremely risk averse at Finance Canada, which is not a bad thing. But at a certain point, if you try and reduce risk too much, you begin to create it. And I think that's the point that we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the, let's make this real. So, the theme of today is about are we competitive enough? Is there enough innovation going on? And so, and you've done some great interviews recently on, how well are small businesses being served in the Canadian market. And we know from Stats Canada that we've got roughly about 61%, this is before COVID, 61% of small businesses, which is 735,000 businesses, have either not been approved for loans or have not applied. And the reasons around why they haven't applied are ranged from it's too complicated to fear of being rejected. And I'm happy to tell my own personal story about that as a new entrepreneur, or that they, don't think that they need funding. And so, when we look at that, that number of businesses, we've seen the COVID relief reach, a good number of small businesses in Canada. But generally speaking, there just isn't enough money out there to support what has been a very strong performing, small and medium-sized business sector in Canada. So, yeah, I mean, what are the implications of that?
Well, I look at it and say Canada has become a startup hub in the world. I mean, Toronto is one of the most active, densely populated startup cities in the world. The Toronto-Waterloo corridor is phenomenal. In Atlantic Canada, we've been having some phenomenal successes. And so there's just a lot of excitement about our ability to compete, not just in the more complicated fields of AI and machine learning, but it just generally in building businesses that are selling intangibles around the world. And that's where the economies of the world are moving. That's where the greatest productivity growth can be achieved in any sector. And so Canada is demonstrating our ability as an economy to compete, period. Really exciting stuff. But the trouble is it's happening sort of over off in one sort of silo, and we're not integrating those skills into the entire economy. And that's evidenced by our response to the Fintech or open banking, consumer-directed banking opportunity. Or consumer-directed finance opportunity. We're not integrating what we can do into our economy in a way to create the types of productivity growth that are there, that are accessible to us. So that's, for me, that's the part that I'm most concerned about right now. How do we change the availability of banking and lending services to those who are underbanked right now in this country, be it a small business that doesn't have the sorts of security that our traditional banking system, which is tremendous, in what it can do, but they don't. That small business still needs access to credit to grow.
Yeah.
It still needs access to excellent financial insights to grow. And so we're missing that opportunity, and a lot of Canadians are missing the opportunity to, the marginalized Canadians are in a situation where they pay much, much more for banking services as a percentage of income than well-banked Canadians. And we have got to worry about that as a way to enable entrepreneurship in the communities that need it most. Rural Nova Scotia, for example, giving people access to really competitive financial services and credit is crucial to enabling innovation in some of our more traditional industries. So for me, it's that separation that has me concerned right now, that over here we have our ability to innovate, but we're not integrating it into the whole economy.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there's really big barriers, right, for any alternative financial technology product to get to market. And we were on such a great trajectory with, this time last year, with a lot of discussion, a lot of industry collaboration. I know many of the folks at Finance Canada or the Bank of Canada are very much, trying and very supportive of opening up access to various different parts of our market in the Canadian financial services space. And just on that, so when we look at the number of Actually, I want to go back to, the US, which, not to talk about the US from a political standpoint, but, when you read up on what the criteria were that they felt that non-financial institution lenders had to meet in order to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, and essentially those what was written up about it, which is on multiple public websites, hosted by the government, that there really are no specific limiting criteria for additional lenders, and that what they need to ensure is that those non-financial institutions meet requirements around the Bank Secrecy Act or anti-money laundering law. And I was reflecting on that when I was watching your interview with Sam and Janet and Andrew. And Sam was talking about the fact that in many cases, Thinking Capital is one of his companies, is perhaps more rigorous with their anti-money laundering technology and criteria than perhaps maybe smaller financial institutions. So clearly, there's no specifics anywhere that says why Canadian alternative lenders or fintechs cannot participate in the market. So is it this historical safety, security, where we've been one of the strongest banking markets in the world, and we believe that means we need to stick with just having 6 big banks? Or what's your view on that?
I wish I understood. Genuinely, I wish I understood, because I'm just somebody who views competition and productivity as crucial. I believe our banks have the ability to innovate and the intelligence to see the opportunity to compete on a more fulsome manner. I don't think that they have any interest over the long haul in having their only competitive strategy to be one of building wider and deeper moats, because that's just not the way the world's moving. And I believe that our bank leadership get that. Are they wanting to move in a hurry? No, but that's where government comes in to help a disciplined process being put in place that allows Canadians to be protected on a host of levels. I'm a fan of regulation. I believe regulation is a great thing, but I think quite often we are not looking at regulation in terms of its importance in empowering competitiveness and productivity. And I think that's why you'll see that we felt that the Competition Bureau should have a role when we put that into our report, because this is crucial to competitiveness in Canada. And in my mind, the actions so far, probably the single largest procurement project in Canadian history has been the lending to small business. And that was put out by Finance Canada exclusively to our financial institutions, with no ability to even prototype our open banking regulatory changes, for example, in a well-managed process that brings our fintechs to the table, and that opportunity to Canadian business to access the COVID relief through the organization that has served them best. What we want is our businesses to survive this crisis. That's what Finance Canada wants, I have no doubt. But I still think, I keep coming back, the only issue here is I don't think we've convinced the finance minister of the massive opportunity that's being missed by Canadians.
Yeah. I wanted to, and I'm going to assume we can run a little bit past our original stop time, because I think we were 5 minutes late getting started, but so hopefully that's okay. And I'm trying to keep an eye on the public chat, and I don't see any questions.
Hopefully you'll avoid the digital hook, Sue.
I know. I've been part of those digital hooks before. But let's talk about data portability. So one of the big issues that is at the center of open bank and consumer-directed finance is this concern about Canadians sharing their data in order to open accounts with, let's just say, for general purposes with fintechs. and that they're doing that today in a way that is not on side with their banking agreements. So they're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to give out our banking passwords. Flinks, who just announced a big new round of investment and is one of our Canadian stars in fintech, but also one of the big players in the space of, enabling that connection between a fintech and a financial institution. The founder in their announcement said that 1 in 3 Canadians have connected through Flinks an account with their financial institution information. 1 in 3. And one of the issues that we're seeing happen in markets where there isn't a regulatory framework for open banking is banks are starting to change the way that they enable and allow those types of connections to happen. As an example, I was trying to save some money for my parents who are retired in Nova Scotia and were very ill for the past couple of years, and I set up my Milo account. And Milo is a great app, and there's lots of other terrific, savings apps out there. And often I will just go and look and see how much money I'm actually surprised often how much money I've been able to sock away with just rounding up my purchases. And now my app is disconnected because my bank has said, no, you're not allowed to connect this fintech app. Isn't it my data? Isn't it and I know I'm speaking as though I'm a consumer, but really, I think all of us just don't necessarily realize what's at stake here if we can no longer use these great, products that our banks don't offer often, right?
Well, and here's a sort of a two-edged sword. I'm concerned that Finance Canada will continue to use the fact we haven't updated our privacy legislation as a reason to delay doing anything on open banking over this next period. And I don't think we need to. We can prototype the digital charter in a deal that fintechs have to adhere to, and the issue is that putting in place the environment that enables Canadians to safely and confidently use their data to create opportunities is crucial. That is the future. Australia implemented on August 1st, almost exactly a year ago, August 1st, 2019, the Consumer Data Rights Act. It came out of the Australian Productivity Commission because they viewed control over your own data and the ability to invest your data as you see fit as being crucial to productivity growth in Australia. So this is a tremendous opportunity as we move forward into a world that is dominated by AI applications based on large pools of data that can really inform us in terms of how we do so many things in our lives. And that is especially true in the financial technology space. And you look at some of the things that are occurring. Look at the fastest company to $1 billion in revenue in the world's history, Shopify, a Canadian company that is. I love the line that Harley says that they're arming the rebels around the world. They're enabling every disruptor to get into the marketplace and disrupt. And one of their fastest growing areas is sub-Saharan Africa. It's fantastic what financial technologies can do. The scale they can bring to solve big problems in a specific way to meet your individual needs is so exciting, based on individuals being able to have data portability, their ability to control the use of their data as they see fit. Right. And that's crucial. If Canada needs to move forward on data portability as quickly as possible. There's a number of elements of, started through GDPR and migrating around the world that we can learn from and put in place in a way that is very helpful to spur on Canadian growth at a time, $343 billion projection right now of a first year of COVID debt. We got a big challenge. And so we better worry about productivity in a big way and use that as a way to create opportunity. Well,
and I not sure how we get off the air here, so I guess until someone comes and says otherwise.
Well, I'll just say, Sue, I just
you're-
wanted to say thank you to you for taking the time to host this, and
Oh,
really
my
thanks
pleasure.
to Craig and Jennifer for including me.
Absolutely, and I think that I think our message for the rest of the day is, you know, absolutely, we are not there's not enough competition. We need open banking. We need fintechs to succeed. It's you know, Canadians are using these products, and our, you know, economy depends on small businesses being able to get to market, and sell their products in Canada.
And just, you know, we've got to really focus in on helping the finance minister to understand what's being missed here, and that there are ways that we can move ahead and have the consumer protected. But you know, if you're wanting to hold back open banking or consumer-directed finance or fintechs, it's too late. The horses, you know, globally, the horses have already bolted from the barn. Don't worry about closing the door now. Worry about how we catch up. So give those horses food and water, and let's get back on and start to be where we should be, which is at the front of this massive global opportunity.
We can be. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak to you today, Senator, and thank you. Everyone, enjoy the event.
Thanks very much.